those of you who are wanting to learn a little bit more about how to edit, the first round of this, we said, let's do it all editing on our phone. Editing on your phone is great, and yet, for maybe those of us over 40, and also just for those of us with fatter thumbs, it's harder to do everything we need to do on our little phones. So this gives us some editing tools to be able to do things on our computers and take the advantage of the full power of our computing software. So with that, I'll hand it back over to Steve and Chris to do their magic.
And I want to just point out that I don't know if Marcy or Sarah is going to do this, but this session will be recorded, like the other sessions will be recorded, and the individual videos we're going to show today will be available, and I'll have a tip sheet in a Word document. So to theoretically make this easier, and I think we're going to replay this thing for the other cohort down the road.
Well, good. Well, as Marcy said, I hope all of you are starting to get a little bit comfortable on working with your phone and editing on your phone. And I was just editing a piece that I shot yesterday, a little promo piece for a project we're doing. And I was editing on my phone, and while I was there editing, thinking how cool it was to be able to edit this on my phone. I'm also dealing with how big my thumbs are and how small the screen is. And, there's a certain amount of challenges. And I think for maybe 60% of the stuff that you're doing out there, the phone might be a great place to edit it. If you're just looking and getting quick communications, video communications out there, it's so great to be able to do that with your phone. But for those more complex pieces, where you're having more than one interview, where you're really trying to tell a more complex story, I think you'll have better luck if you try to take the challenge and try to see how this works with Premiere Elements on your computer.
I am going to ask people to mute their microphones because we're going to play a bunch of videos, and that'll cause a feedback length that will make us all crazy, especially you. So we're going to show you, we have 4 little videos that go through the different kinds of steps of editing on Premiere today. We're using the same footage that we used last time. Yvonne's getting a lot of screen time. We showed how to edit one of her interviews on KineMaster last time.
Residuals for this?
She should get residuals. And we are going to take the same footage and show editing on Premiere. So the steps we're taking really are the same, no matter the platform you're editing. You're going to have to get there's an extra step here though. You're going to have to get the footage out of your phone onto your computer. If you are working with an Android, then you're going to use...
You'll use the Android file transfer. If you're using your phone, which is an iPhone, then you'll be transferring this through iTunes. And you'll just, both ways, you'll be hooking your phone up to your computer and accessing those movie files, which will be found in the Filmic Pro folder on your phone. And it's a little challenging to deal with the interface on both of these, but it's basically a file transfer. And know that the video that you shot will be existing on the Filmic Pro app in the share folders in there.
So instead of just talking about it, we're going to use the power of video.
Now can I go?
And now you can go to the place where you're going to show really, video number 1, where we're going to actually show how to do this very first step of getting your footage onto your computer.
Roll 'em.
It might be an acquired taste, but editing can actually be kind of fun. I'm always amazed how, with a little patience and imagination, you can raise almost any footage to top-notch status.
Let's begin with getting your footage out of your phone and then into your editing platform. We learned last week how to edit on our phone. Now we're going to focus on editing within your computer. But the process is much the same as described in the first session, and it's similar for both iPhone and Android. Go to your Filmic Pro app and select the little right-pointing play arrow. This brings up all the clips that you've shot. At the bottom you'll see a check mark in a little box. Select that and you'll see a little red ribbon on the left of every clip. Tap on the ones you want to edit and the ribbon turns green. When you've selected all of your clips, tap on that little icon in the middle. It kind of looks like an old 35mm film roll. This will either copy your clips into your Photos folder if you're using an iPhone, or you'll be asked where you'd like to store them if you're using an Android. Now, if I was using an Android, I'd choose the Movie folder and create a new folder that you'd name appropriately with your project name.
To upload your footage, connect your phone to your computer with your USB cable. Now, if you're connecting your iPhone to a Mac, iTunes will open up as it recognizes your phone. On iTunes, you'll see this little iPhone icon up here on the left. Click on that and you'll see the contents of your phone. Locate File Sharing here and give it a click, which brings up a window containing all of the apps that can transfer documents between your iPhone and this computer. Find and click on Filmic Pro, which will give you a list of all your footage. I know I want everything I shot on the 23rd, so I click on the first one, hold the Shift key, and click on the last one from that day. Now this next step is a little tricky because they've kind of hidden the Save To button. It's way down here at the bottom of every file on Filmic Pro. So click Save To and locate where you want to copy it to. We have external drives, and that's where I'll make a new folder and copy it in.
The process on an Android is very similar. Just know that if you plan to edit on a Mac, you'll need to download the free Android file transfer app.
Now here's a quick word about where you store and work on your video footage. As you've probably noticed by now, we're creating quite large files. If you're planning on shooting video on a regular basis, invest on a small external hard drive. At the very least, it's a good idea to back up your footage and editing projects, and this is a cost-effective way to do it.
Good.
Right.
Okay.
Now,
well, apologize for the little black hole there, but we got it going.
Is our everything working now?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so before we go into the chunk method of starting to edit your story, let's think a little bit about the whole storytelling process once again. As we have talked before, really this is a 3-act structure. You want to get their attention in an introduction, set up the story, say something compelling so that they'll want to listen. You're going to make you or your interview subject is going to make 2 or 3 key points in the body of the piece, and then there's going to be some sort of a wrap-up, which generally is a call to action kind of a thing. So when you're going through the footage, and I like to go through the interview and just look at the whole thing to get a grasp of what's going on, these are the kinds of things that you're thinking about.
So basically, Chris does something that you might find valuable. When she's going through all of that footage, she takes the time to really write down saying sort of a quick synopsis of what each clip says. And so you'll find that valuable later on when you're trying to put these pieces together. So the next step is that now if you're shooting a 1-person video, and you've written the thing, you probably know all the beginning, middle, and end of the storytelling.
One would hope.
And so when you're going through and editing, you're just simply looking for the best takes of your written piece. But if you've got an interview, 1 or more interviews, you're really going to go through and try to find the best part of each clip. And one thing that I like to do when I'm looking at the footage, I'm really have my antenna out saying, oh, that's a great beginning right there. That thing that she said right there, that's perfect for a beginning. Or, boy, she really explains the process right there in that sentence. So I'm really going through. The first cut through is just like we did on our phones. We're just going through and we're cutting the heads and tails of each piece and getting rid of the clunkers.
But you're also thinking about what you're saying and figuring out where you're going to use it. So actually, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit.
Okay.
So what we want to do now in this little second piece is to talk to you about how you do the ins and outs. The screen, the timeline in Premiere looks a little bit different than on KineMaster. So we want you to be able to see how you cut things into chunks.
So basically, we've gotten the footage out of our phone in Filmic Pro, and we're going to pick up here.
Okay.
So
we're going to do it right this time. Here we go.
Here we go. Go ahead.
Video
You're doing it
number
right.
2.
Okay.
Yoo-hoo.
Okay, video 2. Here we go.
Now we get to the fun part. Honing your footage into a top-notch video. Premiere Elements is a trimmed-down version of their full-fledged professional version called Premiere Pro. Upon purchase and installation, you're first met with this opening screen. You want to edit video, and it opens to your main editing window. To get the most out of video, we choose Expert Mode, and I hope you take the time to poke around here. The tutorials are very helpful, and as you might guess, there are tons of useful tutorials on YouTube. But first things first, we need to add the media that we just shot. Click here.
So this window comes up and lets us locate our footage from the files and folders. I uploaded everything from my phone onto this top-notch videos folder on an external drive. And this is the destination folder that I sent my clips out of Filmic Pro into my computer. And there they are. I open the folder and choose what I want to include in my video. I click on Import, and Premiere brings them into the project. They are now called Project Assets. Locate the main interview clip that will become the primary track of your video. Click on it and hold as you drag it down into the timeline. Put it into Video and Audio 1.
Some of you will have no trouble at all, but some of you may notice that the video will not play smoothly when you first drop it into the timeline. You'll probably hear the audio just fine, but the picture is jerky.
How they're doing, we can help them get data.
It's likely that your computer is choking because it's not fast enough to play the video without first rendering the timeline. I think mine stutters because I shot it in 4K and the file is just too big. This orange line here indicates that it needs to be rendered. Click over here and it'll take a few moments to process this file.
Now in this demo, we're just working with one interview. Eventually, your videos will include several interviews woven together, but whether it's 1 or 10, the first pass-through is to create a single timeline of all your interviews. Our first pass-through is simply to play the clip and identify the beginning and ending of each soundbite. It's the chunk method. We're not trying to make our cuts work at this point. We're just slicing the interview into chunks, both good and bad. So when you stop at the end of one chunk and the beginning of the next, you'll notice a little kind of transparent pair of scissors on the red line, which is called the playhead. Click on it and it makes a cut. Play again until you find the next head or tail. Slice another chunk. Keep going through the entire timeline.
Now the second pass is where we get rid of all the clunkers, the unusable pieces, before and after each response. We go through, select each unusable chunk, and hit delete. The timeline ripples and every clip to the right slides in to fill the gap. I wanted to point out a handy little navigation tool here right under the main window. These little spikes with a right pointing arrow and a left pointing arrow navigate you to the very next cut. To the left, over here, to the right, to the right. And once we've tossed out all the bad, we're ready to get down to the real business of editing. Okay.
So let's talk about that just a little bit more. So the first pass is just to mark the ins and outs, kind of clean up your footage, evaluate what you have. Then the next pass through is to throw out the clunkers, the stuff you know you're not going to use. And then you're down to probably your best clips. You're probably going to have to move them around because it's rare that the order of the clips in a story, in a video story, are the exact same order you happen to ask the questions in the interview. So you're probably going to have to move them around. Now, the hardest part for me is deciding what to throw out. These are nice people we've interviewed, right? Mm-hmm. And especially if you've done multiple interviews, you want to be sure that you have at least one clip from every person that you've interviewed. And you have to pull yourself back and talk about the value of the story that you're telling, not pleasing the person that you interviewed. And you talk about the value of having a concise story because you know people's attention spans or time schedules are such that they're not going to watch probably a really long piece. So that should help you have the courage to throw out the ones that just are not the best and to keep the gems.
Well, so now you're you're left with the gems. So now you've got to really that's the bare bones of your story. And your next step is to put those into some sort of cohesive order. And you'll notice that you're going to need a little help with audio now and then, because there'll be you need a little space at the end of a person's quote to where they would naturally take a breath. So there's a little finesse when you go through the end of the clips to make sure that when you play them, that makes sense and there's no jarring sounds, or there
Right.
probably will be jarring visually because you're doing jump cuts. But this is where our good friend B-roll comes in. B-roll is our friend to be not only to help us tell the story, but to be able to cover those edits that we're talking about. And especially you'll see in Yvonne's little piece that we used, I shot some very simple B-roll of Yvonne walking down a hallway, sitting at her computer, typing. You remember those from the examples we had with KineMaster. So that's the kind of stuff we're going to cover. But there's also the titles that you'll need. You'll need the opening title, which is usually very simple. It could be your logo, it could be sometimes you want to open on the person, but consider that at the very least, at some point, you're going to either have to put a graphic in to cover a B-roll, or to maybe at your ending, you put your title, your logo with a call to action, a phone number, a website, whatever. So you will need to be able to add graphics and add titles within your story.
So that's a lot of things that we have left to go. We've got 2 more videos to show you how to do things. This first one is going to show you how to get a logo in and how to adjust audio when things aren't exactly right. So let's take a look at that piece first.
Here we go.
Now, I'm actually a novice in Premiere Elements, just like most of you, but I want to reassure you that with a little patience, you should be able to pick it up relatively quickly. So after I went through all the footage and I tossed out the clunkers, I had decided what clips were actually at the heart of the piece, and I started to put them in order. I knew I wanted to start off with a graphic of Yvonne's organization, CPHI. So I asked for their logo at the highest possible resolution, and I saved it to the same folder that I had saved the original video files. I brought it into Premiere by going to File, then down to Add Media From, and then down to Files and Folders. I navigate to my external drive, find the folder, there it is. To insert this at the head of my existing timeline of good chunks, I double-click on it in the Project Assets box, and it brings up this little play window. Now, a good length of time for this kind of opening title is around 4 seconds, so I let it play for 4 seconds. See the time code on the bottom left? Then I type the letter O, and that places an out marker on the clip. I click on the play window, and I hold it down, moving it to my timeline. It makes a little fist. I drop it at the very beginning, and then everything ripples down 4 seconds to make room. You can now get rid of that little window. I then play to see how the first clip sounds.
So we're a group and we help public health programs and in a couple different ways. So if a program is having a hard time knowing how they're doing, we can help them get data.
Let's take a closer look at this edit by expanding the timeline right over here. That's better. It's a good clip, but a little rough at the beginning.
So we're a group and we help public health.
I think we can come in right here at We Help Public Health. With the timeline spread out like this, I can kind of see her words in the audio track. As I move the playhead, I can hear her voice, and I try coming in right here. I click on the scissors, and I split the clip.
We help public health.
She actually says we twice, so I'm going to try to get exactly to the start of the second we. We'll use the very helpful trim tool. And notice as my cursor gets close to the playhead, a little red bracket appears. So when it's pointed to the right, I'm trimming the head of the clip to the right. This allows for frame-by-frame accuracy. To edit between words, watch those audio waveforms to see where the second we begins, and move the red bracket to just before that spot. And then, when we play it back, it sounds perfect.
We help public health programs and in a couple different ways. So if a program...
Now I'll apply a dissolve by looking way over here in the very top right column. I'm going down past the Fix tools into the Edit tools, down to this little dissected blue box. This is the toggle for transitions. Click on it and you'll see all the fancy transitions. Some are pretty cool, but we usually stick with the old cross dissolve.
We help public health programs and in a couple different ways.
This is your basic process for making your edits work. Slice, ripple, and trim.
Once you do this a few times, it's going to come more and more naturally as you go. The great thing about it is that the ripple part, because we've worked on other editing systems before where you put something in and it doesn't go that way, but you'll put in like the logo and everything moves down to make room for it. It's really good.
I'm hoping that you're catching on to the similarities between both of the editing systems. It's basically the same processes over and over and over again, and you'll find that trim is a little bit easier when on Premiere. It's a little easier to handle than dragging that little yellow handle on KineMaster, but both are doable as you find out.
So now we have talked from the very first time we practically opened our mouths about the value of B-roll, the value of action footage. Actually, it has two values, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Well, of course, and I think I just talked about it. You know, the ability to be able to show what you're talking about is really, really valuable, and just to be able to see a person in action. Like I said with Yvonne, I had those shots of her walking down the hallway or her sitting at her desk. Always try to think about being able to capture that kind of video using your trusty gimbal and get those quick little shots. Mm-hmm. It'll take you a few minutes, but you'll be so thankful you did when you got into the editing room and you're able to cover some of those cuts like we were talking about.
And remember to, when you're shooting B-roll, don't just do one shot.
Right.
Do you think? We've talked about coverage before. You have a large shot that establishes what's going on, that shows kind of everything.
This is how you think about when you're covering that B-roll, these pieces. So you get your wide shot first.
Wide shot first, and then you get close-ups of elements in that wide shot so that you have you can tell a little story with your B-roll.
For instance, the shots I used for Yvonne, I had her sitting at her desk. So the very first shot, I got back a little bit further, and I shot a wider shot of her at their desk. Then I moved in, and one thing to think about is always give yourself a count of 10 to make sure that you have enough footage, because it's a really tempting when you're shooting and think, oh boy, I got that picture, then I'm going to move on. But give yourself a good count of 10 on each one of these shots so that you have enough to be able to use in editing. So I got the wide shot, then I moved in closer to an angle on Yvonne. Then I moved around to the side of her and got a shot with her where I could see her keyboard. And then I even got a shot of where I was close on the keyboard itself, so that you could use all these in telling a story. And that's something to always think about when you're doing the B-roll.
So we're going to, in the next video that's coming up, we'll talk about B-roll and how to get it in. This is another fabulous trick that we're going to tell you about now. This helps so much.
I think we talked about it a little bit.
You've got the interview and you've got your gem cuts, and they're wonderful and they're in a logical sequence, but sometimes you need some kind of transition to get from clip A to clip B, something that connects the two, or something that introduces a new subject, because clip B is a slightly different take or a different topic point. So you can do voiceover, and you could do a stand-up where it's you doing a single person video to get between, but the by far easiest way to do this is to use full screen text.
And sometimes I like to think of it almost like a chapter header in a book. So this is a new chapter. It sort of signals to the reader, to the watcher, viewer, that this is a new subject, and it helps make that sort of transition.
So it's either a chapter header, it can be a question, take the form of a question that they're about to answer, It can be a full sentence that you want to. I can remember doing a bunch of videos with gentlemen who were talking. This is a terrible subject to bring up, but it was an important one. They were talking about surviving suicide ideation. And I'd want to tell their story, and I'd have to, at the beginning, they'd talk about when they were really struggling. And then they'd go on to how they dealt with the struggle and how they survived. And there would be a sentence where I would put in between that would explain what happened. And then he talked to his family and to a counselor and really got the help that he needed. He hadn't said that. It had happened. It's the perfect transition and a full screen text to make clip A go with clip B. So we're going to show you how to do that.
And then finally, let's just talk a little bit about music. We'll talk more about this later, but I really think music is kind of the secret weapon that we have as communicators with video. If you think about every movie that you've ever seen, you become completely involved in the story, and if you probably don't realize it, but music is helping to compel you, to hook you emotionally into that story. Music is going on all the time, and most of the time we're not even aware of it. And some people who make videos for basic communication say, well, you know, music's not such a big deal. I really think that it can make a huge difference to be able to hook the audience, to be able to help tell that story. And remember, we're always talking about not only connecting to our viewer's mind, but connecting to their hearts and to their emotions. So music can help you do that.
Sets mood, sets tone, sets energy, all those sorts of things.
Well, I think we have one more video.
That's right. This is like a 5-minute piece where we're going to talk about 3 really key pieces for you in your editing on your videos.
Here we go. And here we go.
Now, let's add a lower third title introducing Yvonne. You can add a title by going up to Text at the very top of the window there. Choose New Text, then Default Text. This places a little type overlay on your picture. Type and size your title to your liking, and then click on the arrow to the right in the Mode row. You can now drag it to where you want it and add transitions from our little blue dissected box in the right column and add cross dissolves at the head and tail of our title.
So let's add some B-roll. We go back to our assets and find a good clip to cover those cuts. I double-click on this one, bringing it up in the little video window. I play the clip and pause when I find a good place to start the clip. I type the letter I on my keyboard, telling it I want to cut in here. I play until I want to stop the clip, and I type O for out. I click and drag it with the little fist onto the Video To row of my timeline. To see how it works, I put the Add Cross Dissolve at the head and give it a try. That looks good. I always like to feel like I'm telling a little story with my B-roll. I'm going to dissolve to a second cut of Yvonne at work at her desk, and then add a cross dissolve between the 2 clips. Let's jump ahead to adding a full-page transition title. On the right, click on the T icon for titles. Now it defaults to motion titles, but I want something simpler than that. So click on those double arrows to the right where it says motion titles, and classic titles will come up. I use the one right at the top. Position your playhead on the timeline where you want the title to start, and drag the top title, this one's called Default Text, to the Video To track. On the screen above, you'll be asked to add text. Just like the lower third, you'll see font, size, alignment, and so on over on the right. The title usually goes between clips, and it can be a great way to transition between 2 comments. And then there's music. It's often a nice touch to begin and end a piece with a little music. In our example, we laid in a piece of music that lasted the entire video. So it begins and ends at nearly full volume and then needs to be much quieter when Yvonne is talking. So here's how to do this. Hold on. First, click on the music track so it's highlighted. Then go over to the far left where all the audio and video tracks are listed and find the music tracks at the bottom. Click the arrow just to the left of the word music and you'll see a 3-part icon appear. This will let you add keyframes to adjust the volume. move the playhead where you want to have the first keyframe, and then click the middle of that three-part icon over on the left. You will see a little yellow circle appear in your timeline. So to decrease the volume gradually, you move the playhead a little to the right, and then you add another keyframe. And then you take the cursor, you place it on the second frame, and you pull it down a bit. That will lower the volume for the rest of the music track, at least until you put in another couple of keyframes at the end to bring the volume up again. We'll talk about where to find music to use later in the class. So now, theoretically, you're done. Play it through a couple of times to make sure things are working just like you want.
So now let's get your video out of Premiere and up on the web. Go to the top right above the screen to Export and Share. Click on Online, then Vimeo, then 1080p, and choose High for quality. Then click on Begin Share. Now the first time you do this, you'll have to sign into your Vimeo account, and after that it's automatic. After it's uploaded to Vimeo, it'll take a few minutes to finish processing. I'm not sure what they're doing, but they're finishing the processing. But while you wait, you can click on your Settings tab. Under General Settings, you can change the title and description of your video and edit the thumbnail. Go to the bottom under Collections and select the Top-Notch Smartphone Videos box to share with your fellow travelers.
Easy, right?
Yeah, simple.
Yeah, not complicated in the least little bit. We know, again, there was a lot there, but you'll be able to look back at these, and I'll give you a Word doc that highlights some of the key points.
Yeah, don't panic. We're really just trying to give you an overview. It's hard to put hours worth of work into a couple of minutes, but we tried to go touch each one of the processes that you'll need. So use the tip sheet that Chris is going to send you, and if you need to refer back to these videos, or if you get stuck, please contact us anytime and we'll be able to talk you through it.
So we want to talk a little bit more about music, because talk about do's and don'ts. There is a big don't on music, which is you can't use popular music. You can't use anything that's copyrighted. You can't use anything that we used to listen on the radio and that you now listen to on Pandora. Because, of course, we're songwriters too, so we know that they're owed money for the use of their material, and you probably don't want to pay thousands of dollars to use a popular song. So you have to avoid this.
It'd be terrible to be sued by the Beatles,
wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So what you're going to do, one approach is to go into Google and just Google royalty-free music. Creative Commons sometimes will have some websites will say, we have 13 sites for free music. You have to be careful, because sometimes they may not charge you money, but they'll insist that you give a credit to the composer at the end, which is not the end of the world. You can give them a lower third credit in the end. But there is actual royalty-free, don't have to pay a nickel music. Often in the YouTube audio library, you will find some things.
Also, if you have a full subscription to KineMaster on your phone, there's a bunch of free music on there.
Audio assets.
Yeah, and I mean, believe me, I've been Googling royalty-free music, and site after site comes up, but the truth is, they may be royalty-free, but they are not free. And just to throw in a word, if you find a piece of music that you really like, and if it's for an important piece, you may pony up $15 for a royalty, just because it's worth it.
Yeah, but sometimes it's buku more than that. So YouTube audio library is a good idea. And I think we've really already talked about the storytelling value of music.
Well, we've been blathering.
Haven't we, though? And now we want to see what kinds of questions you have, if any. If you can even process this well enough to ask a question, we would be happy to try to answer your questions.
Okay, I see Marcy was saying that she's freezing on her video. I hope you didn't have a problem watching the videos. Again, these will be out and available for you to look at on Vimeo.
Our best friend Sarah McCassin, who is so organized, will put this all up for you.
So let's see. Let's open it up. Do we have any questions out there about this process?
And we have one more thing to do if we don't have questions, so never fear. Marcy, you want to say something?
Thank you, guys. This was so helpful. My question is, I guess maybe just a comment that I believe you will be available for us when we have questions later. Because what I find is I do this and I go, okay, I got it. Oh, wait, there's something that wasn't in the video. And I'll rewatch the video and then I'm like, okay, there's some other little trick or something. So if you're okay with us reaching out to you to say,
Absolutely.
help, I'm stuck on this part, that would be fantastic. Because this is it's very much hands-on learning that we need to do.
We spend our lives me asking Steve questions about how to do things in our what do you do editing system. So we are not unaccustomed to a question. It's perfectly all right. And
Sure.
as they say, there's no such thing as a dumb question. Really, it's okay. Okay. All right, now we think it's possible.
Anybody have a comment? Barbara, T.
Yeah.
Bishop, Hillary?
Yeah. All right, so this isn't part of the bonus, but you may recall that we had the North Dakota group had a heck of a time getting their video loaded last time so that we couldn't see it. So with fingers crossed, Amy has emailed us the video, and we are just so hopeful that we're now going to be able to share this so that we can, this is a single person video. So looking to the sky.
Here,
Amy, you look a little nervous, Amy.
Here we go. Let's give it a shot.
Oh, please.
Have you ever wondered what screenings are done on your baby after they are born? Today I'm going to tell you about some important screenings that are done for your baby before you go home from the hospital. The three main screenings consist of blood spot, hearing, and pulse oximetry screening for critical congenital heart disease, or CCHD. All three of the screenings are available to every baby born in North Dakota, no matter if they are born in a hospital or at home. Newborn blood spot screening is a simple procedure where a few drops of blood are taken from your baby's heel and sent to the laboratory. The blood is tested for nearly 50 conditions that cause severe physical and mental disabilities if not promptly treated. There is a treatment available for all conditions screened. You should be notified of the results at your baby's first appointment with their doctor. Hearing screening is a simple non-invasive test that measures the amount of sound waves off the eardrum. Early detection of hearing loss is important for enrollment in special programs to help your baby learn to communicate effectively. CCHD is another simple non-invasive test that measures the amount of oxygen circulating in your baby's body. This simple screening can alert doctors to certain heart conditions that may not appear until the baby is older and has been discharged from the hospital. If you have more questions about these life-saving screenings, please visit with your baby's healthcare provider or visit our website for more information.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. That was worth the wait. I'm telling you. Totally
That was
worth the wait.
awesome, really. That was terrific. And I know that you guys have been going through
The tortures of the damned.
I mean, just to get this out. And I just want to, first of all, say great job. Really great job all the way through, many, many pieces. And secondly, thank you for persevering. And we'll talk about you still having trouble getting this up on video. And let me take a look at it after the class and we'll figure out what's happening.
So before more blather from us, let's have others who are watching. Oh, first of all, let's do it like we did the others. Amy and Joelle, talk about what you learned, what you do differently, what was hard, besides getting the doggone thing on Vimeo. What you learned in the process. Amy.
Hi, everyone. Oh,
hi, Joelle.
This is Joelle. I think we actually shot a couple of times. Like, we shot down in our cafeteria at the Department of Health, and we had an outside window behind us, and so we were trying to get people to not walk behind us, and which obviously you can't control that. And so we had some troubles with lighting. So then we had went to a couple other areas, but then had some difficulties with sound, and so we actually just decided to do it in my office. And so we were on such a time crunch that we kind of just took the first video that we did. Otherwise, we probably would have.
You want to give them the feedback my 8-year-old gave you?
Yeah, and tell them about that, Amy.
My daughter. So, like she said, we were on the time crunch, and so my daughter was had to come up to work with me when we were editing it, and she watched it and she goes, "I feel like Joelle needs to like smile a little bit more on camera." So we were teasing Joelle about having a resting face, and so it was pretty funny. We were laughing about that.
I think it's hard to try to give an overview like that when you're trying to say specific things rather than being asked questions, because then you can kind of go with the flow and it's a little bit more like conversational than just saying like what things are. So I think with our other video that we did with Dr. Connell yesterday for the 2-person interview, that will be a lot better because it's more of a discussion and not just, here's the information I'm providing and I'm trying to read it and smile and do all this stuff at the same time, and I'm not a camera person. So we're going to continue to do our day jobs and not become anchor women. But Amy did an awesome job. She did all the editing, so kudos to her that she was able to get all the little logos and all that stuff up. So
where'd you get the photos, Amy?
So we have a Getty Images account or whatever. So I did download one. The first one was from there, and then the other 2 are actually Joyelle, whose baby was the hearing screening one? Somebody within the newborn screening world, their baby, and then the third baby was one of our epidemiologists. That was actually her baby. She brought her in when she was newborn, and we did some pictures of her. And then the heel picture was actually taken with my camera. It's not real blood. There was no baby harm during the making of that picture. But we used Caro syrup blood, and we were just doing a demonstration of how do you collect a newborn screening for one of our training modules that we did. So that was what that was from.
Yeah,
but my
great pictures.
My main question was, and I must have been doing something wrong on the kind maker thing on the phone. I couldn't get the intro part like before, and then the transition afterwards. Like I couldn't make it longer than what the video footage was. I don't know.
Well, it depends if sometimes if that was where you started the video and there was nothing ahead of it, that's gonna affect that. But one thing you could do is to put another piece of video in there. Take the
just a placeholder.
Just a placeholder.
Okay.
Just to insert that before the video that you saw, and
okay.
And then you put the graphic on top of it, and then you delete.
Cut the audio. Okay. Because what we did with this interview that we did with Dr. Connell is we just I just filmed her for a little bit before she started talking, and then that way we had. Okay.
And also, and also let at the end of a cut. Don't be so, we all have we think we've got to stop it right away, but just let it a little bit so you have a little bit of video.
Okay.
I thought it was really great. I want to throw it open to everybody else in the class, and I'd like people to chime in and tell us what they thought about it. Folks out there?
Hey, it's Hillary from Tennessee. Hey, you guys did a really good job. I missed last week's or the July 11th class, so I missed everybody else's video. But good job. I liked how you guys did the transition with the pictures when you were talking about the CCHD blood spot and hearing.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I liked it too.
Great, Hillary. Thank
you, Hillary.
Anybody else? Barbara, anybody?
I'll always have comments. You guys, that was awesome. That was so good. It really looks professional. Well done. And I know there were some headaches and there was some learning curve, but it sounds like you had fun while you were doing it. So that's huge. And then I guess I have a question. Is this something that you'll do again? You said you wouldn't be anchor women, but when you need to get a message out about, hey guys, there's a quick change in our CCHD protocol. Here's what we got to do. Would you feel comfortable putting together a quick video to get that message out to the community?
Oh, for sure. I think so too. The one thing is that if we're sharing anything with our outside partners, we have to go through our whole approval process. So although you say quick video that we can do, that whole process may take, I don't even know, it's a lot of time to go through all of our channels for approval, but I definitely think it's something that we're excited to do. And actually, I can't remember if we shared this, but Amy has her daughter and 2 of my kids we're going to film them doing a conversation of oh, did you know that when we were babies that you got this heel prick? Amy did a whole script for the kids. And so we want to do that, probably not as part of this project, but we would be happy to share it when we're done with it. So I think that will be just cute, and they can be playing with babies and whatever. Amy came up with this whole awesome idea.
You will let your Facebook and Instagram friends will be so impressed with how cool you
are.
That is awesome. I love that idea. That's so fun.
And then our toolkit that we're working on that will be up later this month, we actually have a gal that works in our human resources that's having a baby. And we had a nursing student up with us yesterday, and she agreed to be on film. And so when the gal has her baby, we're going to go up and film the nurse doing the newborn screening stuff, so the hearing screening. And so then we'll have video footage that we can use as part of our toolkit. So it'll be a visual thing as well as the still pictures in the PowerPoint and stuff. So pretty excited about that. That'll be cool. So this has been super helpful, but very hard.
So this is not the end for us.
Good.
Yay!
That's
You can use your gimbal to like get different views around the bed. That's so fun.
People are going to be like, what is the Department of Health people doing here? They're usually like, doing a site visit and they're using their cameras.
That's what happens when your governor owned Microsoft, I guess.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be talking about Mac then, should we? All right.
Well, I just want to say, everybody, hang in there as far as experimenting with Premiere. Keep working on KineMaster. It can be your friend. They both can, and they both are important tools for you to try to take a look at. One of the things that I hope all of you are becoming more sensitive to are when you're watching other videos. For instance, when I was watching your terrific video, I thought the call for action at the very end was perfect, although I'm thinking, I wish it was just a little longer so I could maybe, write it down. So all these things, as you watch, you're please take them in for your own toolkit, saying, yeah, no, that was perfect. And that, I think, could possibly be just a little bit better. So when you're doing your videos, you can sort of integrate a lot of things that you've been learning from other people.
I would learn from the video that we just saw from North Dakota, the value of close-up photos. I mean, they were so great that you could really tell. And to tell you the truth, we always strive for diversity in our photos. So I was glad to see diversity too in your pictures, because you want to be able to reach out to everybody that you can. Well, depends on the audience you want to go for. But I would think in this day and age, we'd want to reach out to everybody.
So I think that's it for us in this class. I hope you've gotten something from these videos. Again, they'll be up for your viewing, and Chris will be sending out a tip sheet. And again, don't hesitate to contact us if you run into problems.
And in 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks, we need to see everybody's final assignment. And we're excited that is, that's not very long. You know that, right? It's not very long at all. I would really suggest you start on it next week.
Yeah. So, anything else, Marcy?
We're all good? All right. Oh, wait. Okay. So we're all good. And
all right.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks, and best of luck, and call us if you need us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.